It is Wednesday, my dudes, and you are watching The Sweat, presented by DraftKings. I am Emerson Latte, riding solo here in the captain's chair for the next 55 minutes, an hour or so, however long we go. We got a smorgasbord of analysts here, though, breaking down DFS plays and best bets from around the NHL. We got the NBA, we got college hoops, we got the PGA Tour. It's all on the menu, but first, let's start with the dynamic duo of the Gojo Show. Mike Golick Jr., Brandon Newman, good to see you two. I know we love to have fun. I know we like to laugh and share giggles on this segment every week, but there is really only one thing on the mind of football fans around the entire planet right now, and that is the health of Damar Hamlin. Listen, you two played this game at a very, very high level. So, Mike, what was going through your mind when you watched this scary situation unfold on Monday night?
Yeah, terrified like everybody else, terrified for the young man and Damar Hamlin, who still we're waiting to hear the good news that he's going to be okay, still in critical condition right now in a Cincinnati hospital. Terrified for his teammates that saw their brother going through that on the field. We're built to internalize and compartmentalize a lot on the injury front as athletes at any level, but certainly in this sport, in the sport of football, you get used to seeing a lot of pain and then moving on and still going about your business. But you saw this, a life-threatening instance where chest compressions are being done on the field and you see him get up and fall back down, and it all just jolts you out of your seat. And so it really was just terror in that moment, that pit in your stomach.
Brandon, how about you?
It was every football player's worst nightmare. To see mortality on the field in that way. Every football player always knows there's a difference between being hurt and being injured, but no one has seen what we just saw from Damar Hamlin and the cardiac arrest that he sustained after making a play. Emerson, like, that was one of my things. It was that he made the right football play and popped up and then suffered cardiac arrest. So it was scary. I think as sports fans, we're all kind of almanacs and remember things. And there's the game changed this day, where I think NFL football fans, like, everything changed on Monday night when everyone was watching on ABC and ESPN, and a Bills player that was doing well for himself means a lot to a lot of people.
Yep.
Just kind of reminded us of the fraternity that we're in, and just how important it is, and as a team sport football is, but everything gets kind of individualized, especially when it comes to your teammates that you play with and they continue to go on to other newer heights and things like that. But to see that, it reminded all of us that we're all in it for the love of the game and all care about each other in the same way.
Yeah, for sure. Mike, you just heard Brandon mention it's every football player's worst nightmare. How the hell could you be prepared for something like this?
Can't be. You absolutely can't be.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you saw the looks on everyone's faces. I've said you've seen any number of horrific injuries, right? We've had friends that have gone off the field in a cart where you get the thumbs up and they're going off there, and then they blow the whistle and you play the next down because you go, all right, seen that injury before, know what the recovery is like for that. And it's bad and it's tough and you feel for them, and you see guys struggle to restart after that. It's always difficult when somebody goes down, but there's just something entirely different about this. We've seen the NFL has come out. Roger Goodell sent a memo to everyone around the league saying that they'll have mental health services, grief counselors, all the resources that the players on the Bills, the players on the Bengals, and anyone else who saw that might all of a sudden, to Brandon's point, be reckoning with their place in this sport or their relationship with the sport in a different way because of what they saw. Everyone's going to internalize that differently. It's going to affect everyone differently based on where they're at. And so I'm glad to at least hear that the NFL is doing what little it can at this point to try and help guys process something that no one can possibly be prepared for.
For sure. And I'm glad you brought that up because, Brandon, there are definitely mental health concerns for guys who witnessed this on Monday night.
Oh, absolutely. And we talk about it a lot on our podcast, the mindset you have to be in to go out there and play your best version of the game. Like, we talk about Hard Knocks and the Lions and the way that team just pin your ears back and go. Like that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to administer pain, but you're always also supposed to make sure that you go home at the end of the day. You get your ice bath. You know, everyone bounces back, but the physicality of the game is one of the reasons why we love the game, and it gives so much. But for right now, I think there's so much that are going through people's heads mentally that switch that gets flipped that everyone talks about when you go onto the field, that might be harder to get on, or there might need some wiring in that regard of like being able to really lock in. And that's why I think it's difficult for all these NFL players that are looking to play on Thursday.
And I know you guys, and especially everybody who plays in the NFL right now, like every week, we're talking about human beings going out there and for real, risking their lives. Like y'all knew also going out there, you're putting your body at risk. Dudes who play now in the NFL, really every level, you're putting your body at risk. And not just the whole league, guys, but it was the entire sports world that really came together to support Hamlin, to support the Bills during this difficult time. The NFL, yes, incredibly competitive, but by nature, it's a giant fraternity. And Brandon, you just mentioned that fraternity feel inside a locker room. Can you take us inside that and describe the kind of bonds that are built between brothers?
I mean, it's my kids know Mike. It's as simple as that, you know. And I talked to another buddy of mine that we played, Captain Lewis Moore, and he said in 2023 he wants to focus on being Uncle Cap and visiting all of our teammates' kids like this year. And it's just that speaks to the family of it. Like I went to Jacksonville with no ticket to the game, and I just wanted to run into people that I love. Like I just knew that they were going to be there. Like the community that is a part of football. It's hard to articulate. But now on the other side, I feel so blessed and thankful that I didn't sustain anything, or Mike didn't sustain anything, that we're here to talk about it. And as Notre Dame players, we've lost a couple brothers in this time since we've left the football field and put our helmets down, and it's hard. It's hard because you do lose a family member.
Mike, we saw Cincinnati players, Bills players consoling each other on the field. We saw behind the scenes they were going into each other's locker rooms here. Doesn't matter whether you're on the same team or not. In a situation like this, it really does become this entire fraternity where you have each other's backs.
Yeah, well, and I mean, you think about it, there's a lot of shared experience. You're all going through a lot of this stuff together. Brandon just talked about what you go through with your teammates. For years, we didn't do Thanksgiving with our families. We did Thanksgiving with each other here, getting ready for a game to be played at the end of the week. You miss holidays, you miss important events for your families, your blood families, in favor of your football family and the team that you're around here. And when you get up to the NFL level, the world gets small, man, especially now. The way recruiting is when these guys come up as high school players, the way they see each other in college, the big time guys in the award circuit, you have so much more in common with the dude across the field than you do apart from one another. And it's that recognition that, all right, we've all worked our entire lives to get to this point. Brandon talked about it. When you're out on the field, there's always that sort of code of conduct, certain lines you know you don't cross when it comes to things that could be considered dirty, that could be threatening to guys' careers injury-wise, because you know this is how they feed their families. This is how they potentially change generations of their families' lives with the money you can make out here and the opportunity to go and live out your dream. And that's what Damar Hamlin's doing. That's what so many people have talked about, is he got to a point where he was further ahead in his career than I think he expected or was supposed to be in this season because of a number of circumstances. And there's an incredible opportunity that comes with that. And everyone in that fraternity at that level always talks about, hey, like Brandon said, let's make sure we all get home. Let's make sure we can all get out there next week. And to see something like this happen that's outside of everyone's control, you're used to having your brother's safety in your hands and you go out there. As an offensive lineman, I went out there and blocked hard because if I didn't, my buddies, the running back and the quarterback, could get hit, could get hurt, things could happen here. This was out of anybody's control. There was nothing you could do to protect your brother in that moment. And that's why it looked so helpless. And that's why it hit as hard as it did.
Yeah, Brandon, you're nodding your head in agreement there?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a hard conversation. Like I read the rundown. You guys communicate with us what we're going to talk about. And I want to run away from the topic because you don't know the right words to say because it's still so emotional and raw. But football's changed right now. And as someone who aspires to watch my kids play the game that I loved, and I don't know, I don't want it to be alarmist and take this one instance and put it on the entire game because it is the first time we've seen anything like this. But we have to be realistic about how to prepare for the unpreparable in a way. And I hope that this is a success story like with Ryan Shazier. Like seeing him walk around is beautiful every time we get a chance to do that. Like I pray that we get a chance to see Damar Hamlin tell his side of the story on the end of this.
How challenging do you think it's going to be, Mike, for guys who were on the field in Cincinnati on Monday night to return to the field in Week 18 in just, 4 or 5 days from now?
Yeah, I cannot fathom it, how coaches are handling those meetings this week because they're around Damar Hamlin just as much. They've got their own relationships with him, and we haven't heard, maybe, and hopefully they're getting more information than we are. The people closest to Damar Hamlin should be the ones that know what's going on. We can all wait our turn in this pecking order, but to not have a real certain answer on that, and to try and then walk in and focus on game plan prep this week, let alone get back out onto the field, because for all those players, they're worried about Damar Hamlin first and foremost, full stop. But it's also impossible as human beings not to sort of see yourself in a situation and say, this random chaotic event happened to him. What's stopping it from being to me? Brandon talked about, you have to get yourself in a mindset. I said, you put on physical armor to go play football and you put on mental armor, this mentality that I go out here and I am indestructible. I am a young person in the prime of my physical health and well-being, and I am capable of incredible athletic feats, and I will lay my body on the line for myself, my family, and my teammates. And now all of a sudden that foundation, watching that, it shook my foundation of that. It shook anyone's foundation of that. And the thought of these guys then turning around and having to next play mentality, something like this, seems like an almost insurmountable task.
Yeah, Brandon, I think you got to be respectful. I think you have to approach this cautiously if you are the league, especially if you're a coach inside either building. I think you need to leave this up to the players if they even want to take the field on Sunday.
True. I think there's and then talk about the money that gets lost in that. But I think you have to get back to your training at the end of the day, because everyone is there because they are so good at the training as well as the result on the field on Sundays, right? Like, I think these are professionals at the positions, and you got to lean on the fact that football players know how to play football. And I know it's physical and it's scary, but that's a part of the game as well. And as much as we try to make the game safer, I think it's important to do so. But this is an instance of just how unpredictable it can be when it comes to humans throwing their bodies at each other.
All right, gentlemen, good catching up. We will see both of you next week. Happy New Year. And for everyone watching, we will be back right after this quick break. All right, back here on The Sweat, presented by DraftKings. I'm Emerson Latia. We're going to change gears now. We're going to shift gears over to the NBA. We got a dozen games on tap tonight. Let's dish out some best bets. Not me, but these dudes. DraftKings contributors Gary and Thorne, Julian Edlow. We got DK Nation, Chinmay Vaidya on the horn. Which favorite are you backing on tonight's 12-game slate, Jules?
Yeah, initially I was looking at Miami here. They were sitting around -4 against the Lakers. Tougher game for the Lakers coming back from a trip, but that one's kind of blown up. It's up to 6 now. I don't know if I can lay that many with this Miami team on the road. So I'm just going to go back to Old Faithful here. New York Knicks first half, hosting the San Antonio Spurs. The Knicks have been the best first half team, getting out to the strongest starts in the NBA. They've been a good against the spread team overall in terms of games, but they've been better when it comes to the first half. So you want to look at the Knicks overall. They're 27-11 against the first half spread. Take that at home at MSG. They're 14-5 against the first half spread. Spurs, obviously nothing special. Now you don't have to get that full double-digit win for the full game. You just need the Knicks to get off to a good start, lead this game by 5 or more at halftime.
Gary Bear, which favorite tickles your fancy?
Yeah, I'm just going to be a basic. Even though they're on the road tonight and they're still pretty heavy favorites, I'll just take the Nets. I think this is a really good matchup for them. I guess every matchup is a good matchup for the Nets, or this incarnation of the Nets. They're outscoring teams by an absurd margin during this win streak. Their net rating in the last 10 games specifically up over 13.4 points per 100 possessions. Their offensive rating is about 125 points per 100 possessions in their last 10 games. That's almost 5 full points better than any other team in basketball in that span of time. So basically, they score a lot of points. They do it really efficiently. And the Bulls, in that same 10-game span, have the worst defensive rating in the Eastern Conference. I just don't know how Chicago is built or equipped to slow down this Brooklyn team. Maybe the Bulls hit some shots tonight. Maybe they keep this game close, but I just don't think they're built to stop Brooklyn right now. And I'll just take the Nets to win their 13th straight.
All right, Chinmay, your favorite on this slate?
There's a lot of good matchups here for the favorites. Julian mentioned the Knicks against the Spurs. I really like that. The Spurs are not competitive in any way, shape, or form. Devin Vassell might be out as well with a knee injury, so that'll further hamper San Antonio. I like the Grizzlies going up against a bad Hornets team that is now without Kelly Oubre Jr. and will not be having Gordon Hayward tonight, so they're going to be shorthanded anyway. Cody Martin still not 100% either, so Charlotte is going to be down some key rotation players, and Memphis has steamrolled teams like this in the regular season. And then the Pelicans, even without Zion Williamson, they've been navigating these injuries for most of the first half of the season, and they've done it really well. So I like all three of those teams. If you parlay all three of those on the money line, that's coming in at about plus 125 on the DK Sportsbook. If you take all those on the spread, you're getting like plus 600. That might be a little ambitious given some of the numbers here, but even on the money line, all these favorites are delivering if you parlay that. So those are the three that I really like.
All right, Garrett, let's go to the flip side of this. Which underdog has your attention tonight?
So yeah, I really stuck to the letter of the law on the wording of this question, because I'm not saying you bet them right now, but if there's an underdog that has my attention on this slate, or if there's a line that makes me go, why is that line the way it is? It's got to be the Raptors, now favored by 5 points over the Bucks. The Bucks have been scuffling as of late, but it seemed like things turned around pretty well last night when they got Drew Holiday back. The key word being last night. The books are telling us that Giannis and Drew Holiday might not play tonight, if that's how they feel about this game currently. The Raptors do not deserve to be 5-point favorites over almost anybody at this point in the season, particularly not Giannis Antetokounmpo. Somehow the Bucks have only actually played 3 back-to-backs so far this season, the last one coming in relatively early December. Giannis has not played the second game of the last 2 of those back-to-backs. Seems like he's not going to play tonight. I mean, I guess you could take a chance on the money line here with the better team and just hope that all the guys who should play actually play. I will also say Milwaukee is 3-0 ATS on the second night of a back-to-back so far this season. Again, twice that is without Giannis Antetokounmpo, but Right now, the books are begging you to take Toronto at this number. It's still moving, but the whole thing's just really weird. And if Giannis ends up playing or not appearing on the injury report, this line's going to move like lightning.
Yeah, the Greek Freak making sure no one would outshine him last night. Joining Russell Westbrook and Moses Malone as the only players to have 40-plus points and 10-plus rebounds in 3 straight games since the 1976 NBA merger. Chinmay, who is an underdog you like on this slate?
I mean, Garion mentioned it. This line is ridiculous for the Bucks and Raptors, especially if Giannis and Drew Holiday both play. And I think you have to wait out and see if one or both of these guys are going to be ruled out. And I think even if one guy plays, I think Giannis, if he plays and Holiday doesn't, then I still think I would take the Bucks. I think if Giannis is out, then I might question that a little bit. The Pacers are +8 against the 76ers. Indiana has won 4 straight. They have a bad taste in their mouth after what happened last time early in the season at Philadelphia. 76ers could throw Embiid on the injury report at any given moment. I think this is a big line for Indiana to cover. I think the Pacers would get that job done, even if they don't win outright. And then the Suns are +5 against the Cavaliers, and Cleveland might be without Evan Mobley again. They're probably going to be without Darius Garland. He's listed as doubtful. Landry Shamet and DeAndre Ayton have stepped up with Devin Booker out, and the Suns, kind of like the Pelicans, just keep finding a way to win despite some of the injuries that they've had. I like Phoenix and Indiana right now, and then I'll wait on Milwaukee until we get some injury clarity.
Which dog, if any, are you going to back tonight, Jules?
Yeah, Chinmay mentioned them. It's the Pacers, who grew from 7.5 to 8-point underdogs. Indy's won 4 in a row, and 6 of their last 7, both straight up and against the spread. The last 9 games that the Indiana Pacers have been underdogs, they are 8-1 against the spread with 7 outright wins. 8 is way too many in this game in Philly.
All right, let's go to totals then. So is there a game total here, Jules, that you really like? 12 games to choose from.
Well, the total that jumped out at me, scroll all the way to the bottom, the last game of the night, Atlanta at Sacramento. The total is 245, one of the highest totals in NBA history. I have to play the under here. They got to prove it to me. I'm just looking at, on the surface here, no over-under numbers for either team. On the surface, what are both of these teams coming off of? Sacramento played on the road last night, so they're on the second night of a back-to-back, having traveled. And Atlanta is in the middle of a West Coast trip and just went to double overtime at Golden State in their last game. Just give me a little dry spell where these teams are missing shots for 5 or 6 minutes, and 245 has to be too many.
All right, Chinmay, talk to me about a game total that is most intriguing for you.
It's going to be a lot of lack of defense out here in Chicago when the Nets take on the Bulls. I'm going over 235. I think this is really easy. Both teams are in the top 10 in points per game over their last 5 games. The Bulls have actually been competitive. I think they're 4-2 in their last 6 or 4-1 in their last 5, something like that. So this is going to be a competitive game, and Chicago has the horses to keep up with Brooklyn offensively. Garion mentioned that the Bulls aren't stopping anybody defensively, and they let Donovan Mitchell go for 71 the other night. So, KD or Kyrie could really have a big game here, but DeRozan, Levine, and Vucevic, if there's one thing that they have remained consistent at doing, that is scoring the basketball. So I like over 235 in this one. I expect a shootout out here in the Windy City.
Gary, is there a game you expect a shootout in? You like a over here on any of the totals?
Well, I mean, I still do expect a shootout in that Sacramento-Atlanta game, but Julian's right. I mean, we talked about this yesterday when the line for the Sacramento game was 244. Like, there just comes a point when you almost have to blindly bet the under. In Sacramento, a little bit like the NBA version of the New York Yankees right now, where Yankees totals during the MLB season were just always so ridiculously high that the Yankees actually hit the under at one of the highest clips in baseball. The Kings hitting the under at the 4th highest rate in the NBA right now. Generally, their lines are just too high. So I do really like taking the under there. I also like taking the under in Houston against the Pelicans. That's at 228 right now. Generally speaking, the Pelicans are actually one of the best teams in the NBA at hitting the over, but no Zion, no Brandon Ingram on their side of the ledger. And then Houston, I mean, this is almost an unrecognizable Houston team from the teams that we've kind of grown to know across the last decade or so. In their last 10 games, not only do they have the worst offensive rating in basketball, which probably wouldn't shock too many people, but they're playing at a bottom 10 pace. Like, they're not running up and down the court and taking a million shots a game anymore. They're slow and they can't score. And those two things generally add up to unders.
Chinmay, player prop you like on the DK Sportsbook tonight?
I like Kyrie Irving at over 26.5 points. He's hit it in 4 straight. It's coincided with Kevin Durant going under his point total as well. I think Kyrie continues to have big games here and continues to take on more of a scoring role. And then CJ McCollum over 2.5 threes. He's hit it in 9 of his last 10 games. It's coming in at -175. So this is definitely one that you want to parlay with something to get some more value out of. But McCollum over 2.5 triples seems automatic, especially with Zion Williamson out.
Gary Bear, what about you?
I'm going to go Joel Embiid over 10.5 rebounds. If the Pacers are operating tonight with their starting lineup they've kind of settled on the last couple of weeks, I mean, it's basically a college lineup. It's something we haven't seen in a long time in the NBA. Aaron Nesmith is playing power forward for these guys. They are small. Even with Miles Turner out there, we know like a team can't play Joel Embiid off the court. He's still going to get his minutes. I just look at this team. They're giving up the 4th most opponent rebounds per 100 possessions so far this season, that being the Pacers. In their last 10 games, they have the 4th worst defensive rebounding rate. It all really lines up to what you see in their lineup and the height discrepancy they have. So I think Embiid can really dominate the glass tonight.
Jules.
I'm also going to a rebounding prop in that Pacers-Sixers game, but I'm going to +110 on Tyrese Halliburton for over 3.5. Like Garion said, Indy's playing a small lineup. Somebody outside of Turner's got to grab boards for them, and Halliburton's been doing it recently. He has 7 and 6 in each of his last 2 games, and the Sixers are allowing 5 rebounds per game to opposing starting point guards. You know he's going to be out there big minutes, so I'll take the plus money on over 3.5 boards for Halliburton.
All right, Jules, hang out right there. I know Gary and Chinmay, you two are free to go, but Edlo, you reportedly told our producers that you would like to talk some college basketball. So before you take off, do you have a bet or two that you like in the college game for tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I heard that we needed to fill some time on the show today, but now it seems like we're running heavy. So I was like, I can give some college basketball if you want.
Yes.
But since you asked, Emerson, the board has been moving around a lot. A couple of short favorites are growing to points that I don't think that we can bet them. But the one that I wanted to talk about is Villanova against Georgetown. Georgetown is just dreadful right now. They can't beat anybody. And Baylor, I was hoping to just lay a few points with, hosting TCU. That number came out 5.5 and moved to 6. So what I'm going to do here, this was -125 earlier. I was hoping to get that. We're now up to like close to -140. I'm going to parlay Villanova and Baylor on the money line. I just think Villanova is safe enough of a piece because anybody is taking down Georgetown right now. They cannot get a Big East win for their lives. That is a safe enough piece to kind of bring Baylor down to just a pick to win the game rather than laying 6 here. Need them to win by 7. TCU hasn't played a true road game yet this season, so their first true road game is going to be at Baylor. They're coming off a game in which they were down like 20 at home against Texas Tech. They came all the way back to win on Saturday, so probably a flat spot for them going on the road, whereas Baylor got a big lead on the road at Iowa State on Saturday and then blew it, lost that game. They've lost a couple of road games now. They're coming back home where they're yet to lose this season.
Yeah, things are not going well for Coach Patrick Ewing right now. I can't confirm. Thanks,
No.
Jules. We'll talk to you tomorrow, dude. Coming up next, everybody, we are going to put this show on ice. We're Dallas Stars forward Jason Robertson has been the breakout star in the NHL this season. Is he a top DFS play on tonight's teeny tiny small 3-game slate, though? A great question. We will ask our NHL panel after a quick break. Okay, I said it entering that last break. There are 3 games on the slate tonight. These are said 3 games around the NHL, and we're going to dive into some best DFS and sportsbook plays for this slate with Jeff Ulrich, with RotoWire's riveting duo of AJ Scholes and Paul Bruno as well. Good morning, gentlemen. Let's start with DFS. So Jason Robertson, as we mentioned, entering the break. 8-game point streak. He's in action tonight against the Ducks. Top 5 here in the NHL in scoring this year. How much sense does he make as a forward play in DFS tonight, Jeff?
Well, it makes a lot of sense. We have a 3-game slate, and the Ducks and the Ducks are one of the teams on the slate. So, starting one of the best best young forwards in the game, never a bad idea. I would say, though, if you're giving me a choice, I would rather start lineups with Jack Hughes. He's 7,800. Jack Hughes is, just on fire right now. I mean, absolutely firing the puck at will. Shot on goal bonus, and I believe it's 3 straight now. Scoring machine. I'm expecting goals tonight too. I think when you look at the factors, the Devils coming off a bit of a rest. Detroit could be a little bit rusty or haven't played in a bit, and then you've got Dallas, who played last night. I would rather go with the rested Devils here, who should be motivated after some tough losses to some good teams. They have the big edge against Detroit. So give me Jack Hughes. Robertson's fine, but Hughes to me is the real value.
AJ, what direction are you going here at forward?
Literally the same play. I'm all over Jack Hughes in this one at 7,800. It's just such a good value and a great matchup. Detroit's been really weak for most of the season. They've got other issues, goaltending being one of them as well. So, I really think you look at Hughes, but if you can get Robinson in, there's no reason not to. I agree with Jeff. The back-to-back causes a little hesitation there. He's the most expensive non-goalie on the slate here, but he's producing at a high level. And as Jeff said, they're playing the Ducks. I mean, you got to at least get somebody in there. If you don't go Robinson, you got to get somebody from this Dallas team in your lineup tonight, because the Ducks are just that bad.
Okay, Paul, what do you want here at forward?
We have the first hat trick of the season here on this question. Jack Hughes, screaming hot value. The guy's playing at better than point per game pace. AJ and I called this breakout season in our preseason pods on our podcast, and that's not the only thing that we got right, by the way. But anyway, he's on a scoring tear. 14 goals in his last 17 games. So you got to lock him up for 7,800 in that one. But don't forget, on a short slate, you've also got to figure out the right stack to play, and that's the Dallas top line. Along with Robertson at 8,600, you get a bit of a discount on Hintz at 6,700 and Pavelski at 5,500. All 3 of them should be in your lineup tonight, I think, against the worst defense in the league.
AJ, a defenseman who makes the most sense to plug into your lineups here. 3-game slates. You got to go high up on the board at this position?
I am going to go up, but not all the way up, similar to taking Jack Hughes, who's up there, going just a little bit off the top price range. And this is where I'm going to Dallas here. Miro Heiskanen at 5,300. He's part of, like we've said, that matchup against Anaheim. He leads their number 1 power play unit for Dallas, currently riding 4-game point streak. And is averaging over 3 shots per game over his last 8 contests as well. So a pretty solid floor for a guy that's, 5,300 here. Should be able to produce some points. I love Miro Heiskanen on the slate.
All right, who do you love on the blue line tonight, Paul?
Well, he's right. AJ's stealing my notes this morning, so I'll double down on that. But I also like Kalen Addison of Minnesota for $3,300. This guy's back anchoring the Wild's power play, and they've got Tampa coming in on the second of back-to-backs. That'll be a tough one for the always difficult to play Tampa club, but Minnesota's playing very well right now, and Addison in that spot at that price, good value.
Jeff Ulrich, who's your defenseman tonight?
Yeah, I think as we touched on, I mean, regardless of if you're playing Hughes or maybe you want to go contrarian and play Hughes and Robertson, or Hughes and like Kirill Kaprizov, you want to probably think about going a little bit cheaper at defense so you can do that. So these guys already touched on a few of them. I kind of like Jared Spurgeon from that Minnesota game as well. Spurgeon's just a dude who does everything kind of for Minnesota, and for fantasy purposes, I mean, he is legitimately a player who can get you the shots on goal and the block shot bonus on pretty much any given night. He's out there to special teams a lot. He's a decent shooter, so the goals are always on the table. I believe he's a player who scored double-digit goals a couple times. So Spurgeon at 4,500, really like that. Like the price. The upside is certainly there. And then Ryan Graves is another cheap player I'd throw out, just activated off IR for the Devils. Again, we got a big implied team total for the Devils here, 3,100. He's out there blocking shots, got a nice floor, and he's probably going to be playing about 20 minutes. That's kind of where his minutes have stabilized around. So nice value there on Ryan Gray. It's at 3,100 too.
Hey, Paul, which one of these 3 games on the DK Sportsbook are you targeting, and what's the bet?
I'm doing all 3 on the puck line, Emerson. Dallas plus 125. That's the easiest play on the board today. I think they're going to romp against Anaheim. I like Minnesota in a bit of an upset at home against Tampa. I said they're playing on the second of back-to-backs. A good payout there at plus 215. And then the Devils, I think they're going to just simply outscore Detroit tonight. Plus 160 on the puck line for a club that's struggling a little bit in the last 10. The Detroit Red Wings could be just what the doctor ordered for the Devils to right themselves.
Jeff, is there a game you like more than the others?
I'm pretty much in line with Paul here. Like, you really got to go looking for value when you're going for either puck line or money line. And there seems to be some really solid value on the puck line tonight. At plus 215 for Minnesota is super interesting. Minnesota 5-0 against Tampa Bay in their last 5 games that they played them at home. Tampa Bay coming off a back-to-back. The Wild have been really, really good of late. And this is not a team that I would want to go up against. I know it's Tampa Bay, but again, we're getting plus 215. This isn't like plus 100. These are big odds. And again, like I got to agree with Paul on the Devils. Plus 160. I was surprised to see that line. I know the Devils have lost a few games here, but those losses have come to the Bruins, the Hurricanes. Like, the Devils are the far superior team of 5-on-5 here. If they get any goaltending tonight, they should win this by a couple goals. So I like the Devils at plus 162. Just odds that I didn't really think we'd see tonight on the Devils.
AJ, you riding with your fellow analyst here?
Yeah, I agree with those guys on everything except for the Lightning game. I will actually take the Lightning in this one. I don't know if I want to get minus 105 value. It's not a ton of value to risk on the money line here, so I'm probably staying away from that game. I don't like that one on the puck line, but I do like the other 2. I agree with Jeff. I was surprised to see what sort of value you're getting from the Devils here. I don't know if that's because they're on the road, but I really wouldn't be too worried about that. As far as that Dallas game goes, I'd rather look to give a little bit more here and go Stars minus 2.5 goals. You can get plus 185 value. It's a tremendous spot. And look, if you really want to get crazy, minus 3.5 comes in at plus 390. It's not the worst play either. This is just an overmatched Anaheim team that's going to be facing a really good Stars club.
Jeff, bring us home with a player prop that catches your eye here on the DK Sportsbook.
Yeah, we got to keep picking on Anaheim here. And we talked about, the need to get exposure for DFS, but I really like Jamie Benn here for an anytime goal scorer, plus 275. 8 of his 15 goals have come on the power play, and he's going up against the 3rd worst penalty kill here in the Anaheim Ducks. Ben, again, he's been playing better, obviously, this season, but just recent form too. Really, really solid. So very surprised to see that big a number. I think when you're looking down the Dallas Stars goal scorer list, you've got to at least consider this. Again, it's all about what kind of lines we're getting here. And Jamie Benn in a really good spot tonight. I expect, that the Stars are going to force some penalties here, and guys like Jason Robertson just coming at them in the cycle. So Jamie Benn plus 275 looks really solid to me for an anytime goal scorer. Okay,
AJ, you going to keep picking on Anaheim?
I am. I'm going to go with Wisconsin's own Captain America, Joe Pavelski here to get an assist. Comes in at minus 135. He's got 6 helpers in his last 6 games, producing at a high level, which no doubt is the reason that they signed him to a contract extension for next season. If you want to go goal scoring on Pavelski, you can get plus 170. That's pretty good value as well. And you might as well just grab Jason Robinson. He comes in at even money plus 100. So you're still getting some value out of that one as well.
All right, Paul, let's go.
Well, look at Jack Hughes, I think, on a scoring tier, like I said, paying plus 120 to score tonight. I'm all over that. In the same game, though, I like Dylan Larkin for Detroit at plus 185. The Red Wings captain is still a little bit underrated, I find, but he's playing at just under a point per game pace for the 2nd year in a row. And when he's healthy, this guy's still one of the top players in hockey that doesn't get talked about very much. And I'll take a piece of that Dallas top line. Rupe Hintz to score a goal at plus 140. He's streaking lately with 6 goals in his last 6 games. I think he goes 7 for 7 tonight.
All right, Paul, AJ, we will see you 2 tomorrow. Thank you so much for the help tonight on this 3-game NHL slate. Jeff, hang out right there because I need to find out if Will Zalatoris is going to be a dude you will be rostering this week at the Century Tournament of Champions. He hasn't played since like August, coming back from like a back injury here. The Sweat will return after this quick break.
Got married too.
Oh. The shortest offseason in sports is coming to an end. It is over. It will officially be done tomorrow, Jeff Ulrich. 39 players heading to Maui here, dude, to kick off the new year on the PGA Tour Century Tournament of Champions. Also, let's keep in mind, I think that one of the reasons this is such a star-studded field that's battling at the Plantation Course, it's a newly elevated event, right? I mean, that's a $15 million purse. These guys want to make some cash, baby.
Yeah, and they're also obligated to play in these events now, which is nice for us, the viewers, because it's like, well, it's funny because Rory McIlroy said this, and he's the one who's skipping it. But when you put a turn on golf, you want to see Jon Rahm and Scotty Scheffler. You don't want a headline tournament by, no offense to Seamus Power, by Seamus Power, right? So, this is what we want. We want the top players going up against each other as much as possible. That's where we're getting to start off, like you said, one of 17 elevated events now on the PGA Tour, the Tournament of Champions. And it's been a little bit expanded in terms of field. 39 players, includes the players who qualified at the Tournament of Champions as well, not just last year's tournament winners.
Yeah, that's right. That was a new feature, I think, for this event as well. You mentioned Roy's not in it, and then you also mentioned Rahm and Scheffler, who are the two guys north of 10K. So which one of them do you favor?
I mean, look, this is a no-cut event. You can certainly jam both of these guys in this week. Everyone's getting in 4 rounds, and we saw Jon Rahm blitz this course to 33 under par last year. But I do favor Scotty Scheffler here, 10,300. You look at what Scheffler's been doing. I mean, over the fall, a couple top 10s, third in Mexico, was in the mix at the Hero World Challenge as well. This is just a player he's just in really good form. He's got an elite iron play that's really been cooking all summer or all fall long, I should say. And I just expect that Scotty Scheffler is just on the verge of getting another win. He hasn't backed up that Masters win yet. He let a couple tournaments slip through his grasp in the second half of last year, Colonial, and then obviously at the Tour Championship. But what we've seen from Scheffler is he really doesn't mind going low, and he really doesn't mind these easier setups. Like I said, third in Mexico as well. I think he comes in and really goes for the throat, so to speak, at the start of this event. It's going to be a birdie fest. You got to start fast, and Scheffler's been in form all fall long. As I mentioned, though, I mean, if we saw a Scheffler-Rahm showdown on Sunday, like both guys at 35 under, really wouldn't shock me because Rahm was also blitzing courses over the fall. He was doing it in Europe. So can't really go wrong with either of these guys. I slightly favor Scheffler, though, just because of the fall series he had on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, it's difficult to really poke holes in Scheffler's game right now. And as you mentioned multiple times here on the show and throughout the week and in your articles, most of the guys who perform well at this tournament are the guys who had a hell of a good fall game as well. Thomas, Cantlay, Schauffele, Morikawa, Finau, Fitzpatrick, they're all going to cost you north of 9K. So who do you like out of this group?
Yeah, this is kind of where you're getting your meaty sort of upper tier value. I mean, 9K and above. You got Xander Schauffele, Patrick Cantlay, really good, solid course history. Schauffele, obviously, Almost won this event 2 times. He did win it in 2019 and then missed the 4-footer to get his second win. I'm going to say, though, that the player you should be really keeping an eye on this week is Colin Morikawa in this range. He's 9,400. What we've seen from Morikawa is he's really close. And a little bit like Scheffler, everything was there for him in the fall to grab a win. He just didn't quite have it on the greens. And, you give these guys a little bit of time to rest, a little bit of time to just focus on a single part of their game. I think what you're going to see from Colin Morikawa is early in the season, that part of his game will show up. He'll be a little bit sharper. He's been top 5 at this event 2 years in a row now. He was in the mix at the Hero World Challenge as well, had some top 15s, top 20s in the fall. He was playing. He was out there. And that's what I like about him coming into this event. Just that gives me the slight boost over guys like Cantlay and Schauffele, who, a little bit easier schedule, perhaps a little bit more relaxed. I think that Morikawa is just a little bit hungrier coming in, and it's a small thing, but we're also saving a little bit of money with Morikawa. That's where I would go in this range. Feel pretty solid about him early in the season. Like I said, a player you don't want to be, necessarily missing out on, because when it happens for him, it's going to happen real quick.
Yeah, these are large greens, right? These are large greens at Kapalua, so there's a couple ways to beat the field, right? You can, as 3 putt percentages, those are going to rise. You can be a hell of a good putter on the short stuff, or like Morikawa, you just toss darts, bro. 3 trips here, never finished worse than T7.
No, and that's the other thing about these large greens. They do encourage aggressiveness, because when you miss the greens at Kapalua, you're basically just missing it to a bigger part of the green. You're not necessarily off the green, and then you have to scramble back. So in a way, it does help a player like Morikawa, who maybe doesn't have the greatest around the green game, or it's not the essential strength of his game, but it says, okay, well, if I miss a little bit, I'm not going to be off the green. I just have the longer first putt. So you do see players get really aggressive here, and I expect Morikawa, who's got a new driver in play this week as well, to be aggressive in all parts of his game. So like I said, got that fall experience coming in, played a couple similar courses over the fall, which some of these other guys didn't. I think that's going to give him a boost this week.
Okay, another young stud here. We teased them going to break. Will Zalatoris. How can people strike gold with him here? Because he's $8,900. He hasn't played since withdrawing from the BMW Championship in August. That was a back injury. But dude, assuming he's fully healthy, this course sets up perfectly for this ball striking wizard, does it not?
Not really, to be honest. I don't want Will Zalatoris in a putt-putt fest where he's got to sink every single 10-footer or every single 5-footer. I think this is actually kind of the event where you should be fading Will Zalatoris. It doesn't mean he can't pop up and put in a bunch of birdies and finish T5 or T4 and pay off for you. But, we have a very elite field, and you've got guys like Victor Hovland under him at 8,500, who has tended to dominate in these offshore events where, the scoring does get to 20 under, 23 under, which is what he's won in Mexico a couple times at. So Zalatoris, there's a lot of things going on here. Love the player. Still, I expect he'll bounce back soon, but you've got some swing issues with him changing his swing a little bit to counteract that back issue. He hasn't played in 4 months. I just mentioned how important the competitive practice over the winter and fall has been for past winners of this event. So you got a player coming in cold, a little bit different swing challenges. It sounds like he's over the injury. I'm not expecting a huge amount of rust here, but even a little bit in an event like this where, the winners typically get out to like 8-9 under par rounds. It's a tough ask, man. And he's 8,900, and you've got guys like Sungjae Im at 8,300, Victor Hovland at 8,500. And I'm not even sure how popular a guy like Hovland's going to be. And also, I mean, apparently the best player in golf now, Tom Kim, is also 8,700. So there's just too many options under Will Zalatoris for me to really get behind him. I think that you take a look at him over the first couple events, you wait and see. And then when we hit Torrey Pines, a course that's, I think, is a much better setup for Zalatoris because he's a tee to green wizard. That's when you start thinking about using him for DFS and betting.
All right, Hovland, definitely a low floor, high ceiling target. And speaking of someone who could be considered value, I don't know, he may be a little too pricey for value. Who or where can you find the value for this tournament, Jeff?
I mean, if we're just ignoring ownership percentages and we just want to talk about, players who have a lot of upside and they're just a little bit too cheap this week, I think it's probably Aaron Wise at 7,400. There's a lot of factors here that make me really like Wise. I think that if you get a kind of non-top 10 player winning this event or a non-top 20 player, it's going to be Aaron Wise. This is a player who's big off the tee. He's going to be rolling it out there. He's going to have a lot of short approaches. And he's long enough that on these par fours, he's going to be able to reach them and get us some eagle opportunities. But the one sneaky thing about Wise, it's a very, very positive Bermuda splits putter. He's first in the field in strokes gained putting on Bermuda surfaces over the last 24 rounds. He gains 4 strokes more over the last 24 rounds on Bermuda versus all other surfaces. So Aaron Wise coming in off a very solid fall. He had a bunch of top 20s, top 25s. He was solid in the majors and in the playoffs. So just a continually underrated player. He's got the all-around game. And like I said, that putting upside is a little bit sneaky right now. If he gets off to a hot start, that's a player you might want to jump on in the odds quick.
I saw someone tweet yesterday that Wise has like the best chance to be this year's Sam Burns. And I think what he meant by that was a golfer. It just generates like multiple wins quickly. You kind of rewrite your path or your trajectory on the PGA Tour. What do you think?
I think that's well put by you. I mean, it's exactly what Sam Burns did last year. He went from a player who was a good young talent. People saw the potential to cashing in a couple big wins, beating some top players, and all of a sudden going from potential to like a legit top 10, top 15 players who's a threat in majors now. We start thinking about Sam Burns. So we'll see if Burns can last there. But yeah, I think Wise is a very good candidate. People forget how young this guy is as well, but he's got it all. He's got distance. His putter is continually getting better. And, the rest of his game it's just catching him on the right week right now at this point, in my opinion.
All right, Jeff, finally here, your favorite DFS play for the Century Tournament of Champions in Hawaii.
I'm gonna go with Victor Hovland. I mean, 8,500. I just don't know why Hovland is 8,500 when you have Zalatoris, Finau, Fitzpatrick, all these guys like in that high 8K range or 9K range. Hovland has been an off-mainland wizard. Wins in Mexico, multiple wins in the Bahamas, Puerto Rico. Why not add Hawaii to that list? I think this is a course that does set up well for him, and he's going to figure it out this year. Really improved his putting as well. Went to the aim point putting system over the offseason. He gained 3 strokes around the greens in his last fall start. If he improves his around the green game, Victor Hovland's going to be in for a big year, and he could get off to a big start here. So 8,500, just way too cheap for Victor Hovland in DFS this week.
All right, you want to talk some golf tonight on the Slate at 5 o'clock? You cool with that?
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother. Okay, we'll have to bring Nick Fryer up to speed. He's got to earn his keep here on Wednesday.
He's going to bring some silly basketball bet, is he? He's going to be like, James Harden under like 2.5 rebounds or something. That's going to be Nick Hart. That's great. Okay. Well,
listen, if he wants to be a gorgeous golf guru, I mean, he's already gorgeous. We just need him to bring the guru part.
That's true.
On the links. All right, I'll see you tonight. Yeah, we'll talk some football as well. Who knows what Nick will bring to the table? Probably, yes, a silly NBA bet. But thanks, everybody, for watching. We're back here in studio. Hopefully, Jesse is back tomorrow, 11 o'clock Eastern time. But we'll see you tonight, 5 o'clock on the Slate.